Welcome to GCCars. My name is Eric and this is the 2022 Ford Bronco Sport Badlands. The reason why this Bronco is so expensive is because it's the top spec and fully optioned Badlands trim, so the off-road trim. It does give us some goodies like these tow hooks. We have a lift by default from the factory. We have bash plates up in the front and some other goodies in terms of driving, including the all-terrain tires. But it is still quite a bit of money, and it's still a unibody subcompact SUV, so how off-roady can it really be? Well, we're gonna find out because this is a two-part review. Today we're gonna take a look at the interior, the exterior, we're gonna drive it on the streets, and tomorrow, starting at 11 a.m. Eastern time, we're gonna go off-roading on trails and everything. We're gonna put this through the test and see how off-roady it really is and if it lives up to the Bronco name. Well, whenever that is online, you can either find it top right-hand corner or just at the end of the video. I will link it in a card. With that being said, I think we start off looking at the exterior. Like I said, this is the Badlands trim, right? The off-road trim, so we do have a bit more rugged looks, and it does incorporate Bronco, the big Bronco design aspects really well. We have the same kind of headlights, we have the same kind of grille. I love these wheels. These wheels look amazing, perfectly fitting. And the color, by the way, is Area 51. It's incidentally the same color we've had in the Bronco Wildtrak, the big Bronco we already reviewed. If we move over to the side here, one very quirky aspect of the Bronco Sport though is, you see the bulge? There's literally a bulge halfway through the roof where it goes even higher to allow second row passengers to have a bit more space for their head. So that's actually pretty cool. And just like the big Bronco, we do have like Easter eggs littered around here. And once we move to the back, where admittedly it's kind of my least favorite like design part. It's not bad, I just don't think it's like rugged enough. But with that being said, I say it's time to take a look at the interior. Still my most favorite door chimes in Fords. I love this sound. Anyhow, the Bronco Sport. Ford has learned the same lessons, well, applied the same lessons that they did in the Maverick. The Maverick didn't have a very expensive interior, but they made a lot out of that. The Escape was before they learned that lesson, and I really dislike that interior. This is like the Maverick. Maybe not quite as utilitarian, but it is still very good because all the materials, or like 90% of the materials, actually aren't that great. But visually, first of all, with these kind of copper accents, it looks very nice. And then the plastics that you touch are actually textured, soft, and it is still a very nice place. Look at these seats, for example. Look at the fake suede leather with the Bronco logo in there and the perforation. It just looks visually very, very nice. I really like this interior. Seating position is good. Seats are comfy. We have heated seats, no cooled seats, but heated is fine. Our infotainment is rather small for 2022 standards. Nope. But it is easy to use. It's Ford Sync 3. It is not the new Sync 4. Ford's been out. Ford has for like 2 years or so. So this is an outdated system, but it works very well. It is easy to use. Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, wired. Let's talk a bit more about tech. The B&O system we have in here is surprisingly good. I was surprised by how good the sound system in this Bronco Sport is. It does fall apart a little bit once you turn up the volume, then you lose a bit of clarity. But if you have it and it's on kind of like say regular volume levels, it is actually really good. Very enjoyable. Our gauge cluster here, same design-ish as in the Bronco, the big Bronco, but different layout. So we have traditional tach and speedometer in like physical gauges, and then we have the screen in the middle, which is fairly responsive, works pretty well. You can see off-road pages, so you know your angle of approach and like how much inclination you're going up. And you have all your Badlands specific stuff. So we have our fake rear diff lock, we'll talk about that later. We have our four-wheel drive lock, we have trail control, like trail descent and ascent control. A lot of cool stuff. We talk about that in the second part. But this is really nice. It is not the most expensive, but it follows what I always say. It's not about what kind of materials or what kind of money you put into materials. It is what you do with those materials that you have. And this is another great example from Ford on how you can make a cheapish interior actually really nice. Let's take a look at the second row and see how much space there is for passengers. Okay, now getting into the rear, first of all, I wish the doors would open a little further. This is kind of a very steep approach you have to do here. But once you're in, it is actually fine. Just like up in front, they actually did some very nice things with the materials they have. Same textured plastic, a little harder back here, but it's still very comfy. One critique I have is, this is kind of like a normal bottle, right? It doesn't fit in there, unfortunately. Maybe a little bigger of a cubby would be nice. Like this is just kind of like, gotta store it up front. Whatever. But otherwise, we have pouches in here, which is interesting. I've never seen it like that, and has like nice logos in there. Looks good. We have these straps down here, which admittedly are a little tight. Hold up, post-production Eric here. That was before I knew what Molly straps were. Now I know. So these are Molly straps. There's about 1 billion accessories you can buy for them. They're really cool and actually really useful. You even have pouches on the side of the seats, which is kind of neat. Space, of course, is like plenty. I've talked about how much space there is and how it's like this bulge, right? So I have almost 1 foot of space in terms of headroom. So even tall people can sit in here, no problem whatsoever. I'm 5'7". Okay, with that being said, let's take a look at the trunk and then we go driving. Hola. Are you ready for like the coolest trunk we've ever had in any car? This is actually really cool. So first of all, I forgot how much space we have. Let me look at my phone. So first of all, like this, we have 29.4 cubic feet of space. And you know, I like grocery bag hangers. Well, we have them combined here with like mounting points. 1, 2, 3, 4, bam. Groceries for the whole family right there. You go off-road and you mess up, no worries. Full-size spare just under here. Perfect. You want to do anything, like you want to assemble your gimbal like I do all the time? No worries. We have a table right here, supports up to 30 pounds. And if you don't want to have it, no worries, you just unlatch this thing and you can store it in your garage or you put it right back in. You need to support it, no worries, you have little supports down here. You want to measure something, well, you have it up there. You have inches, centimeters, up to 36 inches, 90 centimeters of measuring. This is actually super useful. Oh, of course, bottle opener for your tailgate parties. You have lights you can move either inside or outside, both sides. Bam, campsite is all illuminated. This is seriously so cool and so well thought out. I love you Ford engineers for doing this. This is fantastic. We have the same bolts like in the big Bronco. They say Bronco on the side because it's cool. And of course, if you want to have a little more space, well, let's just go over to the second row and pop these bad boys down in number uno. And on the second row, there we go. And we get just over 60 cubic feet of space, which is actually enormous for a subcompact SUV. This is seriously cool. I don't have a GCCars awards for like coolest trunk, but this would win it, hands down. Anyhow, I said we're gonna drive after this. Oh, I'm wearing my truck shirt, right? For a reason, because this is like a semi-truck. We can pop the glass like that if you want to just access something. Also, this little table, perfect privacy cover at the same time. I love this. Let's go driving. Okay, now in the Bronco Sport, as always, launch first, sport mode, traction control off, brake torque. Okay, second gear, third. There we go. Not actually that slow. It's pretty good. And this is called the Bronco Sport, right? And that's actually kind of fitting because this, technically, I don't know about the Bronco Raptor, I think that might be faster, but this is the fastest Bronco you can buy right now. The big Bronco, all versions of that, are slower. So there you go. This is the Bronco Sport. Anyhow, we got a turbocharged 2-liter inline 4 producing 250 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque. And honestly, I really like the engine. I think it's perfectly suited for this Bronco Sport and the size and the weight because we have plenty of passing power all the time, and it's not like an engine that is annoying to drive. It's not really raspy. It's not really very present in a way of making it, like, it isn't always like loud, or you don't have to rev it out much. It's very nice to drive. And the 8-speed automatic, which this is paired to, also does a pretty good job of keeping us in the right gear and keeping us in, keeping the revs low, while at the same time also reacting fairly quickly to all of our inputs. If you're wondering what happened up there, really stupid thing. I was setting up the cameras and hit my head on the tailgate while putting it down. So, yeah, I'm trying to make it look like not too gross, but yeah, that's pretty stupid. But let's see how quickly the 8-speed automatic reacts. So it's always 50 kilometers an hour. We're in the normal driving mode. We're just cruising along. Then we're going to floor it and see what happens. Kicks down very quickly, shifts up when we're hitting the rev limiter, and good power. Honestly, no complaints about the drivetrain out here on the road. And honestly, I think I like how this drives. I really like how this drives. It's very kind of effortless in terms of how it's driving, but not too isolated. I just enjoy the zippiness and the instant reaction that this Bronco, with its size and powertrain, really gives me. It's honestly, it's a joy to drive this out on the road and out in the city. But let's see how the suspension is set up, because this Badlands is supposed to be good off-road, but how is it on-road? And you're definitely feeling the bumps. There are definitely vibrations being transferred to you noticeably. Even the smaller bumps, you will feel them, but I don't think it's bad, because everything gets, while you feel everything, the bigger the bump, really the more well dampened this Bronco becomes, the Bronco Sport here. So it never really gets to a point where it's uncomfortable. Like here, these imperfections, I feel all of them, right? But it is not uncomfortable. I think it's still nice to drive. Is it a little bit maybe on the harsher side compared to some other cars you can get for this price point, and maybe some other subcompact SUVs? Yep. But overall, I think it's fine. I think it's totally fine. Suspension here on the road does a good job. Noise isn't perfect, as you can hear. There are some vibrations, there are some rattles occasionally you'll hear in this Bronco Sport. So that's just what you gotta expect if you're getting a Bronco Sport, especially the Badlands, right? We're lifted up a little bit. We have all-terrain tires. Well, for all-terrain tires, it's not bad. It's still different than you can expect with like lesser Bronco Sports, which don't have all-terrain tires. Just so you know, there will be a little bit more noise, and on the highway it can get a little noisy in this cabin. But we also want to test the handling, as we always do, so let's put it right back into sport mode. And powers out, and there we go. Very noticeable how the power was transferred to the rear, so we got kind of to the end of the gear, and during the shift it transferred power to the rear and kind of rotated us a slight bit around. Of course, it's front wheel limited, right? So you will understeer, but it is actually, even for these all-terrain tires, surprisingly good in terms of handling. And that kind of combines with the zippiness and the directness that I spoke about. That just makes this fun to drive. But that leaves us with one more topic we want to talk about, and that is tech. And we've talked about tech here in the interior a little bit. Of course, this is nice, but nothing that will blow you away. But all the driving assist features are actually really good that we have here in this top spec, fully optioned Bronco Sport. So we of course have like the basics, blind spot monitoring and lane keep assist and adaptive cruise control. But this goes a little further. We do have our, which I literally, if I have one safety feature, that's it. We have our emergency front braking, and we do have Ford's really good Co-Pilot 360 assist right here. So that's an option. You don't have that standard. But if you spec that, you get really good active lane centering assist. You can use it everywhere as long as you have the cruise control enabled, which is unfortunate. I like it when it's decoupled, but as you can see, oh, I don't have it enabled. That would probably be good. There we go. It does a great job of centering you in the lane. As always, well, as almost always, this is a semi-autonomous system. So you are supposed to put your hands on the steering wheel at all times, and it will beep at you. It'll notify you that you're supposed to do that. But this system actually works really, really well. It's one of the best ones in terms of active lane safety, especially at the price point. So really good. But with that, there's still this little thing that this costs $52,000. And while it is generally nice, I like to drive it, $52,000 gets you a lot, and especially if you're looking at the segment of subcompact SUVs, it does get you a decently optioned GLA Mercedes, for example, which arguably, while still being the baby Mercedes, is quite a bit nicer. But this is where the adventureness and the sportiness and the supposed off-roadiness of this Bronco Sport Badlands, right? This is the off-road version, comes in. So I think it is time to find out if this Bronco Sport is worth $52,000 Canadian, or if all the off-roadiness is simply marketing. But for that, like I said, we're going to go to the second part of the video, which is if you're watching this as it's released tomorrow 11 a.m. Eastern Time, part 2, and if it's already online, it'll be right here. So yeah, just watch that to see the second part, and subscribe in the meantime. I'll see you there.